the men and women of the United States Air Force, in keeping with one of the oldest traditions of military service, pay special tribute to Political Military Planning, Security Cooperation Strategy Division, Global Policy and Partnerships Division, J5, the Joint Staff, Colonel Wendi T. Duffy. In Chief, Safety Policy, Integration and Analysis Division, Safety Directorate, National Guard Bureau, Lieutenant Colonel Dennis J. Duffy, on the occasion of their retirement. The presiding officers for today's ceremony are the Headquarters United States Air Force Director of Staff, Lieutenant General Jacqueline D. Van Ogles, and the Deputy Chief to the Air Force Reserve, Major General Hubert C. Hedgebeck. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Please remain standing for the advancement of the colors, playing of the national anthem, and the invocation.
Colors, hold, bird, heart. Colors, hope, praise, and heart. Heart.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Major John Smithley will now deliver the invocation.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us pray. Father God in heaven, on this great occasion and wonderful day, We're gathered here to pay tribute to two members of our Air Force family, Colonel Wendi Duffy and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Duffy. As we reflect upon today, Lord God, the milestone of retirement is like a great door that leads to new ventures, new plans, new challenges, new opportunities, and new blessings from above. We thank you, Lord God, for the service of Colonel Duffy and Lieutenant Colonel Duffy and their family, and for their many years of taking care of America's airmen, their families, and our senior leaders. Colonel Duffy and Lieutenant Colonel Duffy have faithfully served our nation for a combined 40 years. And for that, Lord God, we give you thanks for sustaining them and blessing them, for all the contributions, the hard work, the loyalty, the epitome of faithfulness, dedication, and excellence lived and displayed by Wendi and Dennis Duffy. We give you thanks, Lord God. May their future path and endeavors and plans alongside their daughter, Lauren, may they be blessed with joy and peace. Yes, may their joys be many in their time together. May it thrive upon commitment, patience, understanding, love, and respect. Indeed, as we give you thanks, Lord God, for this special, most wonderful day, and for certainly all the friends and family here today, we pause for a moment and give thanks for Dennis's parents, Dennis and Janice Duffy, and for Wendy's parents, Thomas and Teresa O'Boyle. And finally, Almighty God and Lord, we ask you to protect all those who've traveled here today. Bless them and keep them safe. On behalf of the Duffy family, I pray today in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Van Bowles.
All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Team Andrews. The Duffy groupies over there, good morning. Jill Hagbett, wing leadership, chiefs, among many family and friends who have traveled far to be here today and to be part of this great event. For my part, I'm excited and humbled to be in front of you, not just because one Friday morning I got to escape the Pentagon, although that was quite enticing, so that was a benefit. But the real honor is that despite all of the great leaders that Dennis has worked for in his career, he chose me. He chose me to celebrate this occasion with him and Wendi, and for that, I appreciate it. So we get to celebrate not one, but two. This is my first official dual ceremony. Starting together, ending stronger. Pretty awesome. But I would say the joke is on Dennis a little bit. You see, he started with me many years ago as my executive officer at the 384th Airfielding Squadron at McConnell. He drove me crazy. This is an opportunity for me to get back to him after those 16 years have gone by. So seriously, it's an honor. Dennis is an incredible officer who never held back his entire career. He didn't leave anything on the table. He's one of the most dedicated officers I know. So let me tell you that knowing Dennis, he gives the very best of himself to everyone, and he draws the best out of everyone. So I can't possibly do his great career justice in a few minutes, but I have a couple of jobs to do here today. First, I'm gonna slow things down just a little bit. It's a very busy day, it's a very busy week for the Duffy family, and I want both of you to relax a little bit. I don't want you to miss it. This is important. Second, I'm gonna celebrate an airman's incredible career. We could talk for hours about it, but I'm gonna try to give you a sense of the impact Dennis made to our nation. And most importantly, we're going to turn our attention to those who provided the strong shoulders for Dennis to lean on every day. So it's appropriate we start here, over on the left side. Dennis would be the first to tell you that he could not have done any of this without these groupies here supporting him, like Janice and Dennis, his mom and dad, beaming with joy. Very proud, and you deserve that. We ingrain in our airmen the values of integrity, service, and excellence. But the truth is, Dennis really didn't need a lot of honing of that because he learned about that at your kitchen table every day when he grew up. So I know that our good fortune of having Dennis with us for these 20 years as he traveled around the globe, came at a real cost to you and the entire family. Less of him and Wendy around the table on the holidays, less than enough time to spend with Lauren, and so many other sacrifices over the years. So we owe you a debt of gratitude for bringing Dennis to us. So thank you. Dennis leaned on many, but no more so than Wendy and Lauren. So Wendy, I know Jill Hegbet's going to brag on you some more, so I won't go deep in there, but I'm not going to get off the stage without talking a little bit about you and say thanks. McConnell seemed just like yesterday. Alan and I both look back at those times very fondly. Our first squadron, our first love. All the folks that were part of that squadron. We're thankful to know you, and we look forward to maintaining our connection with you and Dennis. I'm really proud of what you've done. Now, you've obviously served in your own right, but you also wore the hat of military spouse to Dennis. So, as the older and wiser one, you kept him on track all these years, and Lord knows that's a challenge. And I know they don't make a medal for that, but thanks for what you did there. We kept him on the road a lot and met countless days and months without him. But you probably gave him the most selfless thing you could, an opportunity to chase after his passion. We can't thank you enough for that. It's not easy as a dual spouse. Now, more importantly, you gave him Lauren. I know you're both incredibly proud of her. You both set such a wonderful example for her to follow. So Lauren, you learned quite a bit, and you know that you can succeed in just about anything you want to put to your mind and heart to. You've grown up to be such a beautiful, giving young lady. Unbelievable you're a teenager now. Thank you for supporting Mom and Dad as they served. Now for his part, Dennis honored your support with his unmatched tenacity. So this is where Dennis moves into his happy place right now because he doesn't like people talking about him. He's kind of humble to a fault, so just go be happy and let me talk about you a little bit. Dennis is a top 1% kind of officer, and I have no doubt that Dennis could climb as high as he wanted to in our Air Force. But a new journey for Dennis awaits. He's hanging up the uniform again after 20 years of distinguished service to this nation. He graduated from NAV school in February of 2001. Less than 7 months later, the towers came crashing down, fire billowed from the Pentagon, and Flight 93 went down in the fields of Pennsylvania. At this point, Dennis and Wendy had been married 3 months. And just like that, we were at war. Dennis would spend the next 18 years on a war footing, longer than our nation has demanded of any generation. There's a quote I love from Churchill. To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they're figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. Dennis didn't have that problem. He readily jumped into the breach again and again. Along with the other fine men and women of the best squadron in the Air Force, the 384th Square Patchers, sorry, Reba, Dennis provided the air bridge that enabled us to take the fight to the doorstep of Al-Qaeda. Hanging off the boom, hundreds of fighters found their lifeline at the end of Dennis's KC-135 in the skies over Afghanistan. All told, Dennis would log more than 1,300 hours in skies far off lands for which many Americans could not find on a map. It didn't matter that Dennis was young, he was green. He quickly established himself as an expert planner and tactician with a thirst for knowledge and attention to detail that would become his hallmark. We often say that combat is the ultimate test. It's notable that even in the crucible of combat, Dennis was recognized as our top navigator, as a lieutenant. He was no doubt ready. It'll surprise no one that we used Dennis's expertise in the following years as an instructor, an evaluator, and in our test community. In combat, failure to adapt and innovate is the quickest way to defeat. We needed Dennis in these communities to keep us on the razor's edge, and he delivered. You also won't be surprised to know that we pulled him back to serve in our most combat-engaged Air Operating Center, not once, but twice, to help our component commander design a strategy for air mobility. Dennis has always been that guy, the one you can turn to for the most important no-fail missions. I think there's no greater example of that than his role as an advanced agent for the President of the United States. Since 2008, across 3 administrations, Dennis has been called to prepare staffs and allies around the globe to receive the leader of the free world, building contingency plan after contingency plan, because that is his trademark. And he did this not for just a few missions, but for 57 missions. The Chief of Staff recognized him as the Air Force's top advanced agent, #1 of 104. So, folks in the PAG sitting up front, I do hope the President has a backup plan. Somewhere in the midst of all that, we sort of took our eyes off of Dennis just for a second, because Cybercom snatched him from us. Major General Williams, then the Director of Operations of Cyber Command, nabbed Dennis as his #1 pick for Cyber Battle Captain, his personal representative for 24/7 global operations. General Williams knew talent when he saw it as well. And just as Dennis has done everywhere else he has planted, he made a positive impact. But this time, he was able to do so at a national and strategic level. I'm happy that Dennis will be returning to Cybercom as part of this next chapter. It's great to know we're going to keep him in the fight, and it doesn't surprise me that he doesn't stray too far, because service is in his DNA. I think it's fitting that Dennis culminated his military service right here at Andrews, amongst his friends, entrusted with leading the National Guard's national safety and risk management programs, caring for our most important weapon system, our airmen. Now, it would take hours to fully represent this remarkable airman and this stellar career, but I'm going to stop right there, and you can catch me after for some good stories about him as my exec. Dennis, I have one final order for you. Take a moment to reflect today. Few reach this far. After 20 years devoted to your country, you might ask, what did it all add up to? Did I make a difference? Was it enough? I contend that it added up to a great American, a superb airman, a great husband and father, a supportive family member, and a caring friend. Your legacy is of excellence, honor, leadership, of fun, of relationships, and impactful service, and it will live far beyond the years you have given us. With all that, I'd say it added up to more than enough. Something that you and your family can be proud of for the rest of your life. Thanks again for letting me join you. To you, Wendi, and the entire Duffy clan, congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, Major General Ishmael.
Thank you. Well, I gotta tell you, that's a tough act to follow. So it's an honor, certainly, to be here for this occasion, and unusual, remarkable to get a double out of this. And so, General Van Ovost, it's great to share the stage with her. She is a fantastic leader in our Air Force with an extremely important job, and I look for bigger and better things for her, as she's one of our best. So thank you for being here and being part of this as well. Now, I think it's worthy to call out the team that made this happen. Great narration, the band, top notch, the chaplain, the protocol team. This is unique. And whenever you have one each 3-star General Van Ovost, you want it to be chop chop, and it is. So thanks to all those folks. So it wasn't that long ago that I met some of this crowd for Wendy's promotion to Colonel. Big day, I was proud to be part of that as well, and here we are. Maybe too soon, you could argue, but things happen for a reason, and here we are, right? So again, I thank Wendi for allowing me to be part of this ceremony. And as General Van Ovost went down the path for Dennis, and oh, by the way, Dennis, turns out you're a stud. opportunity now to talk about Wendi Teresa O'Boyle. We'll spin the dial back a little bit further, go back to 1977, which is when Wendi was born to Tom and Terry, and Bristol, Pennsylvania, about 10 miles north of Philly. Pretty good town, exciting times, 1977. Unfortunately, we lost Elvis Presley that year. It was the first flight of the space shuttle, test flight. And if you're into Apple computers, it was the first year that you could buy an Apple II. So that kind of gives you a perspective on all that. Proud parents welcome Wendi into the world, and oh, pretty cool, 1 year later. As a matter of fact, exactly 1 year later, her lovely sister joined us. Well, actually not exactly 1 year. Terry was in labor on Wendi's birthday, so they could have been exactly 1 year apart, but as legend has it, they slowed down the process just enough so that they didn't share the same birthday. So a year and a day, so contrary to popular belief, they are not Irish twins either, right? So fair enough. So Bristol, PA, great idyllic childhood, everything's groovy, things are going along with the scouting program, the brownies, well, maybe not so swimmingly as all three of them are involved and all three of them summarily get booted out of the program. So it's not worthy to go into detail, is it, Terry, on all that? Suffice it to say, that's how it played out. But here's the good news. Wendi and her sister and her mother learned mutual support, which we talk about in the Air Force all the time early. They were mutual support. They hung together after all that, right? So that's cool. Now, Wendi was an exceptional student in high school and graduated in 1995 from the Nazareth Academy, all-girls Catholic school. She was good, great grades. So she was afforded and earned a scholarship and went on to attend LaSalle there in Philadelphia. Part of ROTC, and why would she do that, you might ask? Well, her father, sitting right here, Tom, served over 30 years, serving our Air Force, our Air Force Reserve. And so get to him a little bit more later, but they actually shared the same unit for a short time too. So really a unique and awesome thing there. So Wendi, going to school at LaSalle, but going across town to St. Joseph's to do her ROTC, and that's where, but a bing, where else she runs into Dennis, and then it's history. They meet, it's like love at first sight, it's storybooks, and puppy dogs, and all that guys, right? So Wendi and Dennis are a couple of Captain Romano's kids, I think they refer to themselves as, and graduated and earned their commission in 1999. Now 1999, just to, again, put that into perspective, an interesting time in the world. Operation Allied Force happens in 1999. If you remember the genocide going on in the Balkans, the Serbians, and our NATO air campaign that went on then. Additionally, if you'll remember, and it's kind of timely or interesting the time that I'm talking about this, is when the impeachment hearings were going on for one each President Clinton. And last, and I think maybe most remarkable, is when Boris Yeltsin stood down and one each Vladimir Putin took the presidency in Russia. Think about that, 20 years ago. It's remarkable. So that's the world that these folks are going to join in the United States Air Force. So Wendi O'Boyle is off to Langley Air Force Base, where she enters her chosen profession of personnel and quickly finds, yeah, she's good at it. She's good at everything. In fact, I forgot to mention she graduated cum laude from LaSalle, criminal justice, joins the personnel world, says, I know I'm good at this, but I don't like it. So other people recognize that her personality, her drive, just the way she operates, she would be a great maintenance officer. In fact, a Lieutenant Colonel L.A. Anderson called to the personnel center and said, hey, look, this person is a maintenance officer. We got to make this happen. So sure enough, she cross-trains and enters the maintenance world. In fact, she was sitting in the Maintenance Operation Control Center on 9/11 as General Van Ovos mentioned all the things that transpired, and so that was her kind of an introduction into what's going to be the rest of her career. Again, fighting the war on terror and all that our country's involved with today. So also, it's worth noting, while she's there at Langley, she and Dennis get engaged and get married. And I might have the numbers a little bit wrong here, but from engagement to past a year into their marriage, somewhere along the 2.5 years, they spent a sum total of 45 days living together. So just an indication looking forward of what their life will be like. The sacrifice that these two airmen made. It's pretty awesome, I think. I think we all would agree with that. So, leave Langley, and then to General Van Ovos' comments and all the wonderful things that happen at McConnell. And that's where Wendi really started to cut her teeth in the maintenance role. And I gotta tell you, for those of you that fly or fix airplanes, you know the maintenance community is a unique bunch of men and women who turn wrenches and keep our airplanes in the air. They're awesome, but they definitely require some vectors left and right, and they need a person like Wendi Duffy to do that, and she was great at it. When they moved on back to McGuire, Wendi continued, now becoming a known quantity in the maintenance field, doing great things. So, interesting in that space and time at McGuire, the 141 is kind of going out to pasture, and the Air Force is bringing in its newest airplane, the C-17. So Wendi Duffy has the opportunity to do both, put an airplane in the boneyard and bring the newest airplane online. Very unique opportunity for her. Also interesting to me, at this time, she's pregnant with the wonderful young lady, Laura. And so Wendi is the project officer to take a 141 and make it a static display. We call it putting an airplane on a stick, right? So that it can be there for people to appreciate. Well, I was talking to Tom earlier. Sure enough, Wendi, it's time. Lauren, she's ready to go. She's ready to come into the world. So Wendy's in the hospital, about ready to deliver, while her father is helping to move the C-141 into position. And Wendi just so happens to be maybe in and out of drug-induced operations, sees this all unfold on the television. That's my airplane! The staff maybe thinks she's hopped up on the juice, I don't know, but it's true. That was her airplane, and she was the project officer. And her father might say that she was on the phone with him because she didn't want to let go of the control of that. So if you know Wendi, that could be a valid comment. But anyway, phenomenal job. Now, they welcomed Lauren into the world, and like I did and others, you know, you make that tough choice, and she made the transition, thankfully, to continue serving into the Air Force Reserve. And transitions uniquely into the 514th, where her father works and has worked for more than 20 years, pushing 30 years. So that, in and of itself, is a great story. Wendi and her father, Tom, serving in the same. I think it's awesome. And she continues, as not surprising to any of us, doing great things in the maintenance community. To the point where she was recognized as such that she was ID'd and asked to come right here to Andrews to work in this outfit and be the maintenance squadron commander to take an outfit that was not arguably kind of hurting, and they needed somebody to bring this thing up to snuff. And guess what? She did it. Absolutely did it. She was the Company Grade Officer of the Year in the maintenance group. Wild and wonderful, great things. Standard for Wendi Duffy. Now, a dozen years or so into this, being on the flight line, flying, fixing airplanes, it was her time. She had to go to the Pentagon, do some staff work. And as per standard, did great things. One of the noteworthy things, I think, is she worked on what we would call the Maintenance Bible, the Air Force Instruction 21-101. How do you fix airplanes the right way? Well, she was a key author in revising that thing. Doing fantastic things. Then she transitioned over to the Joint Staff. That's where our paths crossed. The Joint Staff, and General Van Ovos knows this because that's where I met her. She worked there. It's a very high-functioning, high-speed, high-paced staff. Wendi Duffy is a reservist part-time. It's tough to have credibility and to fit into that organization. Guess what? She did it in spades. Awesome. And so that's where we connected. And so for lots of reasons, she's an awesome officer, great leader. She's a maintenance officer. My wife's a maintenance officer. She's got a beautiful young daughter, about the same age as my oldest beautiful young daughter. Let's see, what else? She's a straight talk. She gives you straight talk. I like to think that I do the same thing. So we just kind of clicked. And I really appreciate Wendi Duffy. I appreciate her service. I appreciate how she conducts herself and all that goes with it. So I'm proud to be here. Y'all should be proud of her, or proud of them as a team, right? Pretty awesome. And here's the beauty of it. She's going to transition to U.S. Cybercom and continue to serve as a civilian in the United States Air Force. As they say, all patriots don't wear uniforms. These two are patriots. They'll no longer be wearing a uniform. So thankfully, she'll continue to do great things for our country. And again, thank you for being here. Wendi, Dennis, awesome. Congratulations.
Please rise as Major General Hedgeman presents Colonel Duffy with the Defense Meritorious Service Medal. Attention to orders. The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, July 9, 1918, awards the Defense Meritorious Service Medal to Colonel Wendi T. Duffy for exceptionally meritorious service as Political Military Planner, Security Cooperation Strategy Division, Deputy Director for Global Policy and Partnerships, Strategy, Plans, and Policy Director, Joint Staff, from February 2016 to September 2019. Colonel Duffy's superior leadership and passion were a driving force behind the Joint Staff's efforts on the Department of Defense's first ever report to the United States Congress on women, peace, and security. During her distinguished tenure, Colonel Duffy worked closely with the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States to include leading the largest, most complex case ever tasked to the Joint Staff. Colonel Duffy was instrumental in coordinating the efforts to establish 3 new state partnership program agreements between the United States and developing countries. She provided insightful inputs to the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy's National Defense Authorization Act of 2017 proposed legislative review, which closely examined the largest legislation rewrite of security cooperation authorities. Additionally, she was a key contributor to the 2019 tabletop exercise Profound Voyage 2018. This highly successful exercise, which included 40 different government and defense agencies, analyzed multiple techniques to minimize civilian casualties during kinetic operations. The distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Duffy culminate a distinguished career in the service of her country and reflect great credit upon herself, the United States Air Force, and the Joint Staff. Lieutenant General Van Elbows presents Lieutenant Colonel Duffy with the Meritorious Service Medal. Attention to orders. The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, July 9, 1918, awards the Meritorious Service Medal to Lieutenant Colonel Dennis J. Duffy in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Chief, Safety Policy, Analysis, and Integration Division, Safety Director, Air National Guard Readiness Center, Joint Base Andrews, Maryland, from February 2015 to January 2020. During this period, the outstanding professional skill and leadership of Colonel Duffy resulted in major contributions to the effectiveness and success of the Air Force and Air National Guard. Colonel Duffy oversaw the management and execution of nearly $30 million over the course of 4 years, garnering environmental safety visit, United States Department of Agriculture, Wildlife Aircraft Strike Hazard and Mishap Prevention contract support. The successful implementation and execution of these contracts directly improves safety program management and hazard reduction requirements across all 90 Air National Guard wings. Furthermore, in order to proactively manage mishaps, Colonel Duffy revamped the Air National Guard Readiness Center Mishap Review Panel process and synchronized air staff to meet with the Director, Air National Guard, and Headquarters Air Force. Finally, as a lead presidential advance agent, Colonel Duffy successfully led Air Force One operations during the 2017 presidential inauguration and a first state visit to Seoul, South Korea by the United States President in over 25 years. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Duffy culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Please remain standing as Lieutenant General Van Ogles and Major General Hedgebeck retire Colonel Wendi and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Duffy. By order of the Secretary of the Air Force, Reserve Order EK-2419 and Special Order Number AC-005143, Colonel Wendi and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Duffy are retired from the United States Air Force effective 1 October 2019 and 31 January 2020, respectively, after a combined 40 years of faithful and honorable duty. Please be seated. At this time, the Duffys will be presented with a certificate of retirement from the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. It reads, Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents, greeting. This is to certify that Colonel Wendi and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Duffy, having served faithfully and honorably, are retired from the United States Air Force on 1 October 2019 and 1 February 2020, respectively. Signed, General David L. Goldfein, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and Lieutenant General Jacqueline E. Van Ogles, Director of Staff, Headquarters, Air Force. The Duffys have received congratulatory letters from former presidents. However, we are pleased to present you with the following certificates from our Commander-in-Chief. It reads, I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of our grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of the military service. I trust that in the coming years you will maintain an active interest in the armed forces and the purpose for which you served. Those who follow in your footsteps will draw inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and sacrifices made to ensure the protection of our American freedoms. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Signed, Donald J. Trump. We will now present Colonel and Lieutenant Colonel Duffy's daughter, Miss Lauren Duffy, with the Air Force retirement pins to pin on her parents. The Duffys will now be presented with our nation's colors in honor of their 40 years of combined service. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field, representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor, white signifies purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling of the Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe and on the fin flash of our aircrafts in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on our United States Air Force, nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands and skies around the world. It is their responsibility and our responsibility to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we, as Americans, enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Wendi and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Duffy, United States Air Force, retired.
To begin, I would like to say a heartfelt thank you to Lieutenant General Van Ovost and Major General Hedgefoot. for co-hosting our retirement today. It is not every day you see two generals on the same stage at the same time for a lieutenant colonel and a colonel. This event truly is a rarity, and I'm so happy it came together perfectly thanks to protocol. I would also like to say thank you to the band and to the Honor Guard for your presence here today. It's much appreciated. I'd also like to say a thank you to my Dennis, my Lauren, all of our family, friends, and colleagues in attendance. You mean more to Dennis, Lauren, and I than you will ever know. Over the next few minutes, Dennis and I will attempt to thank each one of you individually, but if we accidentally forget somebody, please know it wasn't intentional. If I do not mention you by name in speech, please don't be upset. After Dennis speaks, we would like to present some people with a token of our appreciation and share a story about you personally. It is hard to believe that 1995 was 24 years ago, and all I wanted to do was join the Air Force. I was a senior in high school at Nazareth Academy, a private, all-girls Catholic high school in Northeast Philadelphia, and I had a plan for my life. I know, shocking, Wendy had a plan. During 12th grade, each senior needed to meet one-on-one with a guidance counselor to ensure they were applying for college and scholarships. I remember distinctly when my appointment time came, I told my guidance counselor, when she asked me, what do I want to do in life? I said, I'm going into the Air Force. I'm joining ROTC. My dad won't let me enlist, but I want to enlist. He says the Air Force can wait, but my academic scholarship to LaSalle won't, so he's making me go to college. He wants me to be an officer. I'm not sure what that means, but I think he's right. I told my guidance counselor, my dad says him and my mom want more for Cindy and I than he and she ever had. I detailed to my guidance counselor how I thought enlisting in the Air Force would give me the same opportunities as my parents. But I will admit now, Mom and Dad, you were right, but in my 17-year-old mind, I was right. I had a plan, I told my guidance counselor. My dad dropped out of high school to join the Air Force. The Air Force forced him to get his GED, and because he says the Air Force values education. However, I was ahead of the game. I would be graduating from high school, then I would enter the military. I said how my dad had earned an associate's degree and several certifications, and I could do the same. There's only one problem. None of this was normal. As a young girl going to a private Catholic high school, my guidance counselor was bound and determined to say this was not a good idea. After I was done with my ranting about my master plan and my parents' lifestyle, the counselor said to me, are you sure you don't want to be a nurse? That's probably less dangerous than the Air Force, and most girls in your class are going into nursing anyway. I said, well, I'm not like most girls. I'm going into the Air Force. I don't like the sight of blood, and I'm going to be an officer, whatever that means. Needless to say, we agreed to disagree, but my counseling session was complete. I was signed off and cleared to graduate. To this day, I still think the counselor and possibly my parents doubted my master plan would lead to a 20-year career in the Air Force, with over 12 of it on active duty. I started ROTC in September 1995, and I can remember our classroom distinctly. We were a class of about 50 cadets jammed into a room for about 25. Our quarters were tight, and I always sat in the back of the classroom. My dad told me to blend in and don't say anything in your military training. Keep a low profile, because the military instructors always know the kiss-ups and the bad kids. Looking back, I remember those words, and I can't help but think maybe it was a lesson he learned from his dad, Papa Boyle, a decorated World War II veteran himself. I kept saying, keep a low profile, keep a low profile. The class was interesting, even if it took place on Friday afternoon, and our teacher was a loud captain named Joe Romano, and for some reason used to tell people, don't mess with my man Duff, or I'm gonna mess with you. To this day, I have no idea a kid they called Duff was so special to the cadre of St. Joe's. But if you think his parents, Grandma Penny and Aunt Joyce, love him, you should have dealt with the cadre. Initially, I thought Duff fit into the kiss-up role that my dad talked about because he sat in the front of the classroom. He was quiet, respectful, athletic, blonde hair, blue eyes with an amazing smile. He looked like Goose from Top Gun versus your normal college student. Since I took my dad's advice, I sat in the back of the room. I often found myself wondering, when are we going to be done? Because I have friends waiting for me at LaSalle, and it's a Friday night. I had stuff to do. Over the course of our first year in ROTC, Dennis realized the back of the room was a fun place and joined us. How we became friends, I have no idea. Eventually, I learned Duff was a way cool guy with amazing ice hockey skills and a local kid who graduated from Roman Catholic high school, which my mom always said that's where the smart boys go. He wasn't a kiss-up, but rather Det 750's angelic kid from Fishtown. I can't believe the cadre actually thought he did nothing wrong. He was as guilty as I was with our classroom antics, except he hid it much better than I. I was the extrovert, he was the introvert in this relationship. I said what he thought, always. I think everyone will agree we are complete opposites, but somehow we fit together. And it all started our freshman year. At some point our junior year in college, we realized we were having fun together. And still to this day, I have no idea when we officially called ourselves boyfriend and girlfriend. We just knew we wanted to start this adventure together and had no idea where it was going to lead us. In May 1999, our commissioning, we would never have envisioned the amazing places, people, and family we found along the adventure we call our Air Force career. But I am thrilled beyond belief that they're all here together today. You can read in our bios about the places we served and heard about stories about our adventures from General Van Ovos and General Hedgeved's remarks. However, I want to take a moment to tell you about the memories that will last a lifetime, and most of the people are here in this room. I started my career at Langley Air Force Base, home to America's first fighter wing, and a long history of being the first into battle. I lived in a small apartment in Hampton, Virginia, with amazing time living near the beach, the water, and I will always carry with me one of my biggest life regrets: not taking my parents' advice and buying that brand new condo on the waterfront on the Chesapeake for a mere $95,000. After all, in the year 2000, I kept thinking to myself, do I really need to own my own boat slip? Pretty ironic, isn't it? The views were amazing, but boat ownership was not in my cards at that time. Looking back, yes, a huge regret as a boat owner who runs the Chesapeake. I saw firsthand America's response to the 9/11 attacks and the amazing capabilities we possess as its leaders and to protect each other. I learned how to work in chemical protective gear for 10 hours straight, and your family will love you no matter where you roam. How many times did he play Shania Twain on the CD player? Please, when you take a moment, ask Cindy and Dennis about Shania. The most important things I learned at Langley was I can live on my own, I can cook, and I can survive, but I deeply missed my family and Dennis. Dennis and I realized we needed to be together to be happy. While we were complete opposites, we were perfect together. Once Dennis and I were engaged in December 1999, I revisited my Air Force plan I detailed to my guidance counselor years prior. My first revision to my master plan was Dennis was going to fly C-5s out of Dover once he got his wings. Dover was 3 hours from my home in Hampton. I love the thrill of the fighter world and the water that surrounds it Langley. I made it very clear to Dennis I wasn't leaving Langley, I was flying fighters, and it wasn't an option for him since he was a tanker cargo guy. I was doing my 4 years at Langley, and then we were going home to McGuire and buying that shore house. The beach and the water around Langley were my life in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Needless to say, I got life lesson number 1 from the Air Force that year. Nothing goes according to your master plan. The Air Force, with complete disregard to my plan, thought it would be a great idea for Dennis to fly KC-135s at McConnell. Yeah, I literally cried when Dennis told me he was going to McConnell. My outburst wasn't because he was going to be a 4-hour plane ride, but because there was no beach in Kansas. All I knew is Dorothy and Toto lived there, and weird people who look for aliens. Looking back, I will admit now, the Air Force was right. Kansas was our best assignment. We were a young, married couple with a house we built, and I named her Daisy Fieldstone. She screamed, dual income, no kids. Lieutenant General Van Ovos became Dennis's commander about a year into our assignment as a newly pinned on lieutenant colonel. Immediately, she saw something in Dennis and I we never knew existed. She said very early in our marriage, Dennis, you and Wendi will go far. I don't need to worry about you. You will handle the Air Force, the deployments. You guys are strong. She detailed somehow that she saw something in us, and we never forgot those comments. During our tour together at McConnell, the general and her husband Alan demonstrated to the squadron and wing live by the principles of faith, mission, people, and family first, and you will shine. They were partners in each other's Air Force's careers, and I believe I speak for many of the square patchers at the time. We will forever see General Van Ovos and Alan as the team mom and dad who never forgot their Little League team they sponsored many years ago and loved watching us grow in our Air Force careers. The Air Force is very lucky to have a leader like you and Alan, ma'am. I can honestly say you never changed. I loved clicking on Facebook on Veterans Day and seeing your granddaughter posting your CNBC interview about women in the military with the simple words, "We love you, Grandma." While in Kansas, we made friends who became family. In the words of Janet Van Dyke, I literally know people in all 50 states, and I always have a couch to sleep on. No questions. She's 100% correct. We all know people in all 50 states. And looking back, we were young, flying around the world, doing what the Air Force and our country asked us to do. We saw things that underscored the worst of humanity. And though we were told in our commissioning sources in the 1990s, there would never be another war. We held our heads high knowing Team Data Mast was at the pointy edge of the spear, even if CNN kept referring to us as this F-16 unit in the Middle East. We bonded in a way that people who've only been to war understand. So Jen and Shane, Michelle, Janet, and all of Team McConnell in attendance, we love you, thanks for the memories. We will forever be friends who became family. After 3 years in Kansas, I was convinced my master plan was back on track. We were heading home to McGuire in 2004. Finally, the Air Force saw my vision perfectly. My plan formulated in high school was only about a year behind, and as soon as I arrived at the 305th Maintenance Group, the active duty unit at McGuire, I was greeted by two people, KJ Johnson and Tony Esposito, who merely asked me the question, when you coming home to the 514th? We gotta keep it in the family. Your dad's retiring soon. They knew my plan was 4 years of active duty, see the world, and join the reserves. While I was a year late returning to McGuire, I started to really enjoy the Air Force, and started to think about staying on active duty. However, KJ and Tony had a deep down different idea. I was coming home, and it was their job to change my mind. After all, with emails ending with, "Go reserve," I got the message. I'm happy to say Colonel Tony Esposito is here today. Tony has known my family and I since about 1979-ish, when my dad was his trainer on the flight line as a young airman. Dennis and I would like to thank Tony for being here today, and I take great pride when I say to Tony, "Don't worry, I got this meeting. You can sit in the back." Tony knows what it means, and I'm so happy to be the highlight of his 30-year career. Tony was my mentor for my master's thesis and a retired New York City police officer. Thank you, Tony, and your wife, Venus, for being great friends to my parents over the years. The maintenance group at McGuire will always be my first love, and the C-141 that sits on a stick will always be our legacy. Dad, daughter, and granddaughter. In New Jersey, Dennis and I bought another amazing house. But instead of filling it with family and friends like we did in Kansas, we filled it with our own family. Most are here today with us. We hosted epic family events and made memories. Our family expanded shortly after we moved to New Jersey when Cindy married Colin, and right after Lauren was born, so was Madeline and Alexandra. We were beyond blessed to be home during the toughest days of our family and the happiest times in our lives. We will never forget the times our family was with us when Lauren was sick and Dennis was deployed. When I needed to work and Dennis was deployed. Our holiday celebrations when Dennis was deployed. And all the other life events that happened when Dennis was deployed. You stood by us as I transitioned from active duty to the reserve, and when Dennis had 3 major deployments in only 18 months with the countless TDYs during our time in New Jersey. You helped us properly care for Lauren no matter the time of the day. Whether you held Daddy Doll and gave him a kiss goodnight, or held Daddy Doll tightly when Lauren needed a babysitter, you were there. You stood with Flat Daddy on the street corner as I picked him up from your living room because we forgot about him. And not once did you voice your opinion to us that these events were abnormal because only less than 1% of the American population serves. It was our life, you accepted it, and you accepted us the way we were. You took time to Skype Daddy and always blew bubbles outside or went to Wawa for nanas. We thank you for sticking by with us, loving the 3 of us unconditionally, especially when we made the difficult decision for Dennis to take another assignment and align himself with an active duty retirement. Our time in Maryland started in 2011. We loved the idea of being 2.5 hours from our family on average, and our neighborhood turned into the American dream. Families with kids playing outside on video games, neighbors gathered for community events, and multiculturalism is on full display. How we ended up in Ellicott City was a result of our friend and fellow St. Joe's grad, Tara Anderson. Tara, you were our big sister in ROTC. You were commissioned 2 years before us, but for some reason you always loved Wendi and Duff. Once you found out we were moving to Maryland, you sent me a text and merely said, "You're coming to Ellicott City, deal with it." Thank you for introducing us to Ellicott City and for being here today. Thanks, Tara, it's been 24 years. Our time in Maryland was only supposed to be 3. Somehow it lasted 8, and the longest place we lived in our adult lives. Originally, Dennis was at Fort Meade, and I went to Andrews. Andrews truly is America's flight line and was an amazing 2-year assignment. I saw the space shuttle fly overhead as a salute to the military, witnessed world leaders arrive in our country for state visits from my office window, and toured planes you only read about in National Geographic magazines. At Andrews, I went back to the KC-135 and took a squadron from worst to first. I saw the repatriation of America's wounded warriors and provided several tours to chiefs of staffs of foreign governments, and all would comment, "Women in maintenance? Not in my country, but I like it." That was Andrews, America's flight line, and one of the best jobs I ever had, the 459th Squadron Commander. After Andrews, somehow I wound up in 3 very diverse tours at the Pentagon, plus being hired as a civilian. I can say I survived 2 tours in uniform and 1 tour as a civilian at the Pentagon. No easy feat. And somehow, I think I did myself proud. As I intertwined my military and civilian careers, I had the honor to write speeches to Congress, provide military leaders my opinions on topics of the day, and sat in meetings where decisions that made impacted the world around us. I walked the production lines in major defense contractors who manufacture parts for weapon systems like the F-35, the A-10, the KC-135, and AWACS. I loved my job since Andrews, and I got to work with some of the best officers, enlisted, and civilians in the world. There truly are amazing DCMA folks like Derwin, Vivian, Artie, and Felicia, who are here today. My OSD family, Dale, Mr. Blackwell, thank you for being here. My air staff and joint staff friends, Brie, thanks for being here. Chris, I see you back there too. Thank you, Chris. Chris was my ops officer at McGuire, and we were together. Is it 3 assignments now we were together, Chris? 3 assignments. So thank you for being here. You all are amazing. I had great leaders on the joint staff in General Van Ovos and General Hedgeved. It was an absolute honor to serve on your staffs and to represent the Air Force Reserve impacting policies throughout the department. In all, I'm lucky to be here today, and I would not have changed anything. I knew the time was coming where I needed to make a decision after I pinned on 06 and what I wanted to do in life. The big questions were, do I return to the flight line and command a maintenance group, the pinnacle job for an aircraft maintenance officer, which meant a cross-country move, or do I move from the Defense Contract Management Agency into the Air Force as a civilian and retire the uniform? The retirement option allowed us to stay in Maryland and prevented a cross-country move. Personally, I was hoping to delay the decision 2 years, but again, the Air Force had different plans. The decision I made in May 2019 was a reflection of a promise Dennis and I made 10 years ago. The promise was simple. We started it together, we're gonna end it together. I can say I have no regrets, and I've only been fortunate that I had a boss in General Hedgeved who supported the decision 100%. Thank you, sir. I will never forget our conversations in your office. While my time in uniform has come to an end and the chapters are written, I will no doubt look fondly back upon these days, knowing they were the times of our lives. I would like to say to my parents, you were right, and I was wrong at 17. Becoming an officer gave me more opportunities, greater achievements, and is a direct reflection of your life lessons, love, and mentorship. Without your guidance, Cindy and I would not be where we are today. We love you, Mom and Dad. Thank you for being Cindy and I's biggest cheerleaders. In sum, yes, I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. While the nights were endless, the years clicked away, and I can't believe I'm walking out of service with Dennis, my husband, my best friend and classmate, and our beautiful daughter Lauren by my side after 20 years. It seems like the last 20 years were a dream. Wendy and Duff still together and still completely opposite. I love you, Dad. Your turn.
Three to 4 minutes, huh? That's what mine's gonna be, 3 to 4 minutes. So, real-time editing going on here because I can't say everything she already just said. Speaking forth at an event generally normally has 2 speakers is a tough act to follow. So, but to remain consistent with my subdued personality, I'll only take a few minutes here since Wendy took most of it. We'll focus on the family afterwards, and we'll be good to go. Lieutenant General Van Ovos, Major General Hedgeved, thank you for both taking time out of your extremely busy schedules to preside over our joint retirement ceremony today. We all know the commute between the Pentagon and Joint Base Andrews can be as difficult as any in the area, but Wendy and I are elated that we can share the stage with you this morning. It kind of makes us feel famous, you know. We truly appreciate your leadership, mentorship, and more importantly, friendship over the years, and we definitely plan to stay in contact moving forward. General Hedgeman, sir, I need to apologize. Every time something was needed with your name on it, I spelled your last name wrong every single time. It's kind of like trying to type out Brett Favre. You know how Favre's last name is strange? And Microsoft Office is just like, I can't help you out. Half Protocol, Heather, AFDW Protocol, Internet, thank you and your teams for taking on this joint retirement ceremony challenge. Wendy and I wanted to do something a little different, out of the ordinary retirement playbook, and exceed our expectations, and made the ceremony a memorable event for us and our family. Feel free to send us a customer service survey, 5 stars from us. I also want to say thank you to my safety office, especially Sergeant Andino, who helped with the club coordination and all my retirement preparation at the Readiness Center. I'll miss my time at Andrews mainly because of the people I had the opportunity to work with over the past few years. Family and friends, thank you also for attending this morning. We know for some of you that live quite a distance away that coming here on a Friday morning isn't the easiest, especially with the rain outside there now. And we're grateful for your time this morning as well. So here we are at the culmination of our Air Force journey that began in the fall of 1995. I know Wendy covered all this already. 24 years has passed since Wendy and I first met, 20 since we were engaged, 18 since we were married, and 13 since our daughter Lauren was born. We had plenty of PCSs, TDYs, deployments, and many good and difficult times along the way. And before each of these milestone events, someone, either friend or family, or both, would inevitably ask us, are you ready for it? Are you ready? 3 simple words, when put together, force you to reassess your decision-making and preparation leading up to a particular milestone event. So it comes to no surprise that I've been asked many times over the past 9 months, are you ready for retirement? You know, throughout my entire career, I've had a ton of stressful positions and situations that I've been put in. Whether it was flying combat missions over Afghanistan just after 9/11, or planning air refueling master plans for both Afghanistan and Iraq flight operations, or the PAG here for the last 11 years working as a presidential advance agent, stress came with the job and was my responsibility to be ready to execute and be successful without fail. That doesn't happen alone. I had the great pleasure to work with many tremendous leaders and mentors along the way. Back in 2001, I first met then Lieutenant Colonel Van Ovost, when she took over the 384th Air Refueling Squadron, and you heard all this. During her tenure, I had the pleasure to serve as their executive officer and saw firsthand the type of leadership style and learned so much from our daily interactions. This includes a deployment over the 2002 holiday season when General Van Ovost worked with Wendy's leadership to have us both deploy at the same time at the same location. While we couldn't live together, just seeing each other for dinner or breakfast made that deployment so much easier on both of us, and I'm sure our family too. During the same time period in Kansas, as an added bonus, we had the opportunity to experience the General's husband, Alan. Wendy can back me up here, and again, she already did. Alan is one of the finest and supportive military spouses we've ever been around. Whenever anyone needed Alan, Alan was there. Even after time at McConnell, both the General and Alan would attend various events for Wendy and me. Mainly for Wendy, I was the kind of the tag along. Our 18-plus year friendship is a testament, and I want to say thank you to both of you, and please pass our best to Alan. Prior to May 25th, 2006, it was that, Wendy and I were able to focus solely on Air Force requirements in an active duty capacity. We both went to various schools, TDYs, and multiple deployments. Of course, we were only able to accomplish everything with the support of our family and friends, but ultimately we were responsible for ourselves. Lauren's arrival changed those dynamics for the first time, and it really forced us to refocus on family and provide Lauren the most stable life in a most unstable world, and this continues today. Ultimately, Wendy lateraled over to the Air Force Reserves, ended up in the same unit as her father, who's there as that was the first sergeant. And obviously, between being selected as the squadron commander and 2 separate assignments at the Pentagon, her Air Force career continued to excel, and she retired today as an 06. I'm so used to being the loyal ranking member of the family, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Lauren has grown up so much. As difficult as it was for us, it must be exponentially more difficult as a military child. You should have did his part. We're so proud of your accomplishments and great things. We see great things for you in the future. Some say teacher, some say pilot. We'll see. Now back to that question. Are you ready? Fast forward from February to today, November 22nd. It's no longer about completing something as simple as a task on a retirement checklist, attending a VA appointment, or getting terminal leave approved. No, it's more like, are you ready to leave the only profession that you've ever known throughout your entire adult life? It's a question that everyone in this room, military or civilian, either have to or will have to navigate. And for me, it's simply the most stressful time. Full disclosure, we were born from other veterans and friends concerning the stress of retirement, but living through it is a different matter altogether. I can't even see what I'm saying now. Seriously, I really can't. It's very easy to blurt out something, when during a particularly tough situation, I just want to get out, or it'll be easier once I get out. However, it's not easy to actually go through it. I was trying to save time. Now, since retirement is upon us and things seem to be swirling out of control and time just won't slow down, the mind, body, and soul need to forge a truce and recognize that while you may never be able to be 100% sure you made the right decision, we now know it's time for us to move on and continue our time to serve our country and the American people, just in a different capacity, different uniform, and a different employment status. As Wendy and I have said for years, we started this journey together, and now we finish it together. I am proud to remain the same son, husband, father, nephew, cousin, and uncle as I've always been, just no longer with direct access to Air Force One. Thank you so much.
We just wanted to recognize and take a personal moment to say thank you to the people who supported us most, our family. As we address our closest family members, we would like to start with our aunts and uncles. When your name is called, please come forward. Frank and Lisa Erickson, thank you for being the level-headed reason of Gall Street and now the Villas. Several times you picked up when Dennis and I could not be there for his parents, and you simply said, "We got it." We appreciate everything. Thank you. Next, Dennis and I would like to present our uncles, a flag flown over the U.S. Capitol on October 1st, 2019, my actual retirement date at the request of the Honorable Elijah Cummings just prior to his death. Collectively, our uncles either proudly served in Vietnam or in Europe at the height of the Cold War. They served at a time when military service was not appreciated nor supported in the way it is today. We hope they accept our nation's flag as a token of our appreciation from today's military and will forever be grateful for their service so many years ago. For our aunts and cousins, we have a similar flag display for them to thank them for their love and support over the years. Dennis and I decided to present the flags in alphabetical order because we couldn't decide who went first. Paul and Joyce Coley, Uncle Paul, U.S. Army, 1966, Germany, and Aunt Joyce. You are our second set of parents and in-laws. You are our second set of parents and another set of in-laws. Thank you for always loving us like your own children and granddaughter. We are forever grateful for your generosity and support, and we promise we'll get our stuff out of your basement. Frank and Pat Proteruti and their daughter Gina Fusca. Uncle Frank, U.S. Army, 1969, Pentagon riots, in Germany, and Aunt Pat and Gina. Aunt Pat will always be our living saint. Uncle Frank will always be the one who tells it like it is. And Gina will always be the first person to point out dentist left of the air stairs. Thank you so much for your support over the years. Steve Yatsilla and his daughter Kathy Burns. Uncle Steve, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam, 68-69, and a 30-year Philadelphia police officer. Thank you and Aunt Lydia for your service to our nation. Your service and sacrifice will always be appreciated through your timing in the Marine Corps and protecting the citizens of Philadelphia. I know Aunt Lydia is looking down upon us today smiling. Kathy, thank you for being Cindy and I's big sister in life and always assuming the role of General Catherine Mary Poppins. Colin, Cindy, Madeline, and Alexandra. Next, we would like to thank our sister Cindy and her family. Cindy, thank you for being our rock, our cheerleader, and all-around best little sister. You kept us on our toes in the early years, and to find the infamous words from Dennis, Cindy is enough, when I asked him if he ever wished he had a sibling. You married a great person in Colin, and you two gave us two beautiful nieces, Madeline and Alexandra. For this presentation, we would like to give you a flag. You supported Dad throughout his career, you supported Colin during his time in the Army and while deployed to Afghanistan, and you always supported us. You never asked for a pat on the back or any support in return. However, on September 29, 2005, at St. Mary's ER, you became our hero. You had a patient who, unbeknownst at the time, had a violent past and a prior conviction for violence against a police officer. Shortly after you left the exam room to finish up some paperwork for his transfer to the county jail, your patient became agitated and overpowered two police officers. Your patient successfully wrestled a gun from one of the police officers and began shooting the ER, leaving a police officer deceased and two people wounded. As of November 2018, it is still ranked by the Department of Justice as the second worst incident of hospital violence in U.S. history. The event is written about in Lessons Learned by the Department of Justice, and while many do not mention you by name, the life-saving and heroic actions you and your team took that night were the driving force behind many police and hospital protocol changes we see in the country today. While you always said you don't look good in green, you quietly served in the community. Cindy, you will always be our hero for the actions you took that night and every day you do in the ER. Mom and Dad O'Boyle, I don't know what else to say, but thank you is not enough. There is no way we can afford all of the bottles of hair dye we owe you, or the sleepless nights and gray hairs from the stress we caused you over the years. You presented the nation with a highly educated daughter and basically said, please take care of her, we want her back. I'm happy to say I'm back, and it was an amazing ride. You propelled my success, and you will always be the first to correct someone when they say, oh, your son serves, that's nice. You simply say, it's my son-in-law and my daughter, she's in the service too. They're both officers. You never told me I couldn't do something because I was a girl, and you always wanted the best for us. We are forever grateful for your service to our nation. You are a role model for taking care of troops and what it means to come from a military family. Mom, you always take pride in your brother's service, and you were the backbone of Dad's career. We would like to offer you the flag of the nation and present to you the Parents' Medal. Again, thank you, Mom and Dad, we love you.
Well, if I couldn't give the right speech, I can't get to this one either. So, again, I'm less words, more action. So, for my mother and father, just thank you for everything. Growing up as an only child, Lauren an only child, you showed me the way to do things right, and hopefully I made you proud.
Lauren. Lauren, you are amazing, and you deserve more than words thank you. Dad and I entered the Air Force as a couple, but we're leaving as a family. You never once questioned, why do my parents need to leave so early, or why is Dad gone again? You thought everything was normal, like, I like my coat. It's my Air Force One coat. I wear it to see my friend Barack Obama. When you learned to crawl, you went up into the office in the Jersey house and taught yourself how to touch a few buttons on the computer in order to instantaneously connect to Dad, no matter where in the world he was. You would answer the call simply, Mommy busy, let's play Skype, Daddy. You took everything life handed you in stride and never complained. We never dreamed the trip we would take you on. At the age of 13, you had front row seats to a presidential inauguration, met 2 sitting US presidents, been inside the Pentagon multiple times, represented military children in a Sesame Street video, and you attended the White House Easter egg roll and lighting of the National Christmas tree. You have done so much, it's hard to believe that I left out stuff like Christmas in Hawaii, summer in Cape Cod, and getting your scraped knee tended to on the surgical suite of Air Force One. Dad and I hope you take these memories with you for a lifetime and treasure them. We hope you continue to seek out the world around you and never stop being caring, loving, and the humble person you are today. We love you, Lauren.
The men and women of the United States Air Force are proud to have served Colonel Wendi and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Duffy and wish them every success in their future endeavors. There will be a reception immediately following the ceremony. Please rise for the playing of the Air Force song. This concludes today's ceremony. Please join Lieutenant General Colonel Ogle and Lieutenant Colonel congratulating Colonel Wendi and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Duffy in the receiving line in front of the flags. Thank you for attending, and we wish you a pleasant day.